The update in for The View, Joe. President Trump has raised more than $200 million since Election Day. Many other politicians leave office with plenty of money still lingering in campaign coffers. So what happens to all that money? It's a phenomenon called zombie campaigns, when a lost or retired campaign keeps spending money months, even years after Election Day. Our I-9 investigative team looked into what they're spending the money on. Investigative reporter Ethan Stein joins us live now with what he discovered. Good evening, Ethan.
Good evening, Chris. I actually have a copy of some of these FEC rules right here. It says what campaigns can spend money on and what they can't spend money on. And experts told us that these rules, they're easily avoidable for campaigns, and it results in these zombie campaigns. Campaigns spending money years after their election on cell phone bills and paid consultants.
Former U.S. Senator Tom Harkin hasn't served in the Senate for around 6 years. His last day in the Senate was in 2015 after retiring from political life. His last campaign was in 2008, but that didn't stop his campaign from spending more than $7,000 on flowers over the last 3 years.
You could buy pretty much half the greenhouse right now.
We showed our findings to Lisa Rolfes, a local florist.
So he's paying for these flowers from his campaign accounts, even though he's not running for office. What do you think about that?
That's just crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know what to think. I mean, he should have an explanation. Yeah, I don't know.
The body who regulates campaign finance, the Federal Elections Commission, they wanted an explanation too when it asked for more information about the last purchase of flowers in December of 2019. Before then, Harkin's campaign also spent thousands on income taxes, on interest earned, and thank you gifts to supporters as late as January of this year. His campaign treasurer told the regulation agency the flowers were not for personal use, and at this time it is their intention to terminate the committee. But 6 months later, Harkin's campaign remains active, even after a hefty donation to Drake University. Our KCRG TV 999 investigative unit wanted an explanation as well. The campaign treasurer, Teresa Kehoe, declined to comment on our findings, could not point us to someone who could. Megan Goldberg is a political science professor at Cornell College. She told us there are hundreds of politicians like Harkin spending campaign dollars years after they stopped running for office. How is something like this even legal?
So there's just not really good laws about what you do with that money afterwards, and it doesn't automatically disappear.
She says using campaign donations for charity is legal because campaigns can spend money on anything as long as it's not for personal use. But even that regulation, it's easy to avoid.
That's why they can pay for their cell phones, because if they're using their cell phone for work, okay, it's still do they have a second work phone? I don't know, maybe some of them do. But you would still probably have a cell phone, if you were running for office.
He's fighting. Former Iowa Congressman Tom Latham's campaign paid for cell phone service up until at least 2018. He hasn't run a campaign since 2012, leaving office in 2015. But the congressman's campaign continued to give over $75,000 to Republican candidates after he left office. Those donations continued even after he became a partner for a D.C. lobbyist firm. He and the people running his campaign didn't return our calls for comment either. But his campaign did respond to a letter late from the FEC when it asked why it was still active. Then it transitioned to a political action committee and continued donating to Republican candidates across the country.
Holy cow.
Back in the greenhouse, it's not the smell of poinsettias getting a Rolfes, but the smell of zombie campaigns. Very much alive.
I just don't understand why they're using their campaign money still if they're not running.
Teresa Kehoe is also the campaign treasurer for Teresa Greenfield's campaign. That campaign has around over $200,000 left in the bank. You can see how we followed the money trail ourselves on KCRG TV, KCRG.com. Live in Cedar Rapids, Ethan Stein, KCRG TV 9 News.
If you would like to look at us or have us look at a story to investigate, call the I-9 tip line, 319-399-5928, or email us newsroom@kcrg.com. When the Big Ten